Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter for this September the 25th. So today we have to end on time today because my computer is going to be used for something else at about 12:02. So we're going to start and we're going to just keep moving right through. Probably won't have questions today, all right? Today will be a presentation, but you can send your questions in the chat. I will be sure to review them before the next podcast, and one way or the other, we'll get you the information you need the most. So today I wanted to start with a little reminder. And that reminder is from last week. I really wanted to repeat this like every week if we could, and you wouldn't get sick of it. But one of the most important realities you will ever hear on any subject, all right, is it's no longer about how many days we really wanted to do something. It isn't about wanting. It's about how many days we did. So wanting to do something is never going to get you there. It's no longer about wanting to show up to, and remember last week I asked everyone to write down that one thing that was their goal, their dream, the biggie, all right? It's no longer about showing up for that. It's whether or not ultimately we did. The plan is not enough. The plan requires action, even if the action isn't the most successful. It's that you moved out of your head into your hands and your feet. All right, you have combined those two parts of yourself. That's what will get it done. It's also not really all that important in the long range picture of things about how great the plan was. The plan is important, but it's not just about the plan, because the plan is really just a compilation of ideas, right? Ideas and hopefully intention. And those ideas are about how to change. And this is where, again, we fill in what is it precisely that you want to change? Because it's only ultimately about whether or not we did. It's the doing that is the key. So don't get stalled in the thinking and planning stage and make that your accomplishment. All right. Now let's apply this week to clutter, and clutter in the form especially of disorganization. Have you ever considered that by leaving our lives and places, living places, being places in disarray, we're not just absent-mindedly forgetting and getting too distracted, and so distracted, so forgetting to take care of our surroundings, right? Is it possible, or phrased slightly differently, a little more certain, how possible is it actually that we are often creating distractions and chaos and guilt? We're either actively creating by not undoing, or we are leaving what we know is upsetting to us and sort of costs us peace of mind. So actually creating or allowing to remain distractions and chaos. And that self-recrimination, not always to the point of guilt, but just that load of another job. It's not done. It's not done. It's not done. Right? We're letting that happen. And we are quite often, when we walk into an environment and we go, oh, and we put the blinders on, I don't have time. I don't have the bandwidth to look at that today. Oh, it's still there. That is self-recrimination. You are judging yourself. All right. And when we do that, when we allow that to remain, we're actually making ourselves a victim to our own self-talk. We are now criticizing ourselves. We are now misrepresenting the truth to ourselves about how we feel by saying, I intend, but the intend doesn't actually gradually get acted on. Right? But we're not a victim. That is something we're doing for another purpose. And we'll talk about that in a minute. We are not a victim. We are actually the creators of our situation. But if we can keep ourselves in a state of self-kindness and self-acceptance as fallible human beings, all right, we don't make excuses for ourselves. We just accept that we are imperfect and fallible, and we're working on it. We are actually with our hands working on it, not just our minds thinking about it. All right. By using the other skills, and I half jokingly 2 weeks ago, I think it was, said, listen, people, you already have the skills. You already have the abilities. If you are the age you are and you're upright and you can get here every week or as often as you can do other things effectively in your life, right? You have the skills. You have the strengths. All right. And then if you need to develop focus or you need to problem solve, that's what we have the podcast for. Bring it to the podcast. Leave a question. All right. When it's that once a month check-in time, we're going to open the mics, Q&A. Be the first person there with the question that is perplexing you. There are answers. There is help. You're not alone. Every person here is going to have an individual and unique path to who you are, based on who you are, okay? Out of the clutter and the chaos. And to allow the spaces is important, not just for living, but for our own mental health. All right? Even if you are living in the environment, but it isn't just about living. It's about living. All right? It's about lifting that weight off your mind so that you can think and enjoy other things. And that is a gift to give yourself, and that is a gift to give your environment. All right? Because by doing that, by lifting the need for that self-recrimination or the blinders so that you stop seeing it, to lift those is to allow yourself to live and to see all of the positives. There will be negatives as well. All right, every single day. But there are positives every day. If you've got blinders on for one thing, those blinders keep you from seeing the positive as well and truly appreciating it. And when you can't appreciate the other positives that are happening in your environment that are potentially available to you, you also deprive yourself of your ability to thrive. Right now, everybody, stop and think. When was the last time? When was the last day when you had a moment where you went, oh, that's great. Everything wasn't wonderful, but something happened and you could really take a bite out of it. You got the taste, you got the flavor, you got the, you know the feeling. When was the last time you let that happen? because that stuff is happening around us all the time. I don't mean to be a Pollyanna. All right. I'm not. I'm just saying that on the days when negative things happen, when we feel down, we want to really find a way to pull ourselves out of that enough that we can really experience the positives. In the book, in Conquer the Clutter, I talk about, and you're probably sick of hearing it, but I talk about an episode that was like, really another day? And I don't suffer from depression, but I'll tell you, I was lower than a duck's behind for a considerable period of time, thinking, there's got to be more to life than this, really. All right. And I'm driving to, I won't say where, because that tells you what the problem was. And I'm driving there. It's early morning, and I look up and I see the most glorious sunrise I have ever seen in my life. And I'm thinking, wow, that's what, couldn't escape it. Okay, it was a little later on in the day that I was kind of really remembering that. And then I thought to myself, wait, you're missing something here. You are missing something here. There's probably one of those every morning. Where have you been? How many times when you were dragging your sorry butt to where you were going and thinking, oh, another day in paradise? And how many days did you miss that? And what else are you missing? It's right there for the having. It's not costing you anything. You don't have to do anything. Those things are happening around you. And are they enough? No, they're not enough. But they're better than the alternative of sitting in the mud of life. And right? When was the last time you thrived, even for a brief period of time? When was it? And if it wasn't yesterday or the day before, you're missing something. You're missing something that is right there for the having, that would bolster you, would give you strength, would give you, okay, maybe I can't do it perfectly right now, but I can do something. I can show up for myself. All right. If we don't ever create the opportunities for ourselves, nobody else is going to do it for us. And it is doable. So I'm going to repeat some affirmations that I use. I came up with them myself, and they work. All right. And what is the purpose? The purpose is to motivate yourself, to wake yourself up, snap yourself out of a negative, I don't really want to, moment. All right. And we all have many of those a day, every single day. But as it has to do with clutter, as it has to do with disorganization, say to yourself, don't, you want to just put it down. Don't put it down, put it away. Because if you're already overwhelmed, if you're already tired out, if you're already in a funk, wouldn't you rather have one job than five? Because if you put that thing down, you have five jobs. At that point, you decide to have five jobs. You have to see it. All right. You have to go, what are you doing there? Well, what did I intend to do with you? That's two. You have to pick it up. You have to go to where you were going to put it anyway, where it belongs. And then you have to do it. You have five jobs. Don't put it down, put it away. Do yourself a favor. You have just cut about 20 to 30% of the clutter that you will ever have to live with just by doing that. All right. And it doesn't take that long. Now, if you can't actually put it away because the clutter is built up sufficiently without creating a hazard, a fire hazard or a safety mobility hazard, put it as close to where its home space would be. All right. And when we get you to the point that you are working on that area, you can 100% resolve it. But at least in the meantime, you have at least 70 to 80% resolved it. Don't allow it to become a fire hazard or a safety mobility hazard. Okay? All right. The other thing I say to myself 20, 30 times a day is just do it now, Elaine. It never gets easier. Just do it now. It never gets easier. Now, when I'm saying that, I'm not talking about some huge job like, changing the roof on the house. I'm talking about the everyday stuff that we go, oh, I'll just put it down here. I'll get back to it. We give ourselves a story. We all do that. In the other side of my brain, I'm thinking, you don't really want to do that. I'm thinking, yeah, we do actually, because I don't want to have to come back to this. All right. I don't want to have to come back to this. Also, for me, I feel an obligation to do it because how I would have no right to be talking to you about anything if I didn't do it myself. So I know how difficult it is. I know the other voices on the tape that say, oh, we don't really have to do that. All right. Okay. Now, the other thing I want you to remember is with those two affirmations, I really, really encourage you to try them like a lot because you're worth it. You are worth the result. It isn't actually work. It's you lightening your load so that you don't have to do anything. You don't have to look behind you and think, oh, where are the blinders? It's so overwhelmed. And it makes you feel self-defeated, right? You're worth more than that. Now, deep down inside, you would be coming here every week if you didn't already know that. But remember, we started by saying knowing, considering, and talking about it is only the first step. What do you need to do to translate it to very tiny, gradual improvements in whatever it is your goal? All right? Because when we're self sabotaging through disorganizing, ask yourself if this is a tough one. All right? When and if we and our spaces, we as people and our spaces, if they were supportive of us, right, by being clean enough and organized enough, now they're not going to do that on their own. This takes action on your part, right? But if they were enough, not perfect, but enough, we might actually feel even more uneasy. Why? Why would that be? Is it possible that that uneasy feeling that is more than just a little bit likely, all right, that uneasy feeling is what we're actually trying to avoid? So by having the clutter, having the disorganization, we're actually accomplishing something. Is that possible? Because that can happen. All right. Now, it might be for some of us, give yourself the chance to at least consider. For some of us, the recognition that now that everything is good enough, it's in order, we've got really nothing important holding us back. And now is the moment. We must get to working on doing what we need to do to become who we want to become, and that we know in our heart of hearts we're capable of becoming. But when we leave our spaces cluttered, how can that possibly work for us? Here's how it can, and it does work for us. We are always just in those cases where we leave the clutter, we create the clutter, we let it build up. All right, so that it stops us, it becomes a hurdle. We are always just a few tasks or priorities away from stepping out of being that limited by the clutter, the state of being that the clutter represents. And that state of clutter can provide a way to limit ourselves by not being able or not being available to show up for ourselves. Because we should be doing the clutter, right? It should be, I can't do it because right now, take out those pens and paper. All right. Right now, I can't move forward on that plan successfully because I need to until fill in that blank. What is it? What is stopping you from that chipping away at it and getting it done? What is it? What is holding you back? All right. Because not being able and not being available to show up for ourselves, even to the degree that we are ready, that little bit, all right, that 15 minutes, we are available individuals. You're available. What else are you doing in your day that you are available for? And how different are those two parts of your day? You're doing something. What is the difference? Think about it. What is the difference? So, how do we resolve it? Like anything we need, especially like something we know back here we need to do, we have to start slow. All right. Don't be telling yourself you're going to close the door and lock it and take the phone off the hook for the weekend and you're going to clean the whole place up. If you do that, you won't, chances are you will not keep it done. That's too big. That is not reclaiming at a living rate. That is a drama. All right. That's a drama. That is intense. You can't live that intense. If that's your strategy and you really truly believe that that will get it done, then you have never experienced the repeat of clutter building up. Maybe you've had a bad episode and you moved, and 3 months later, it's still all over the place, but it's a one off. It's not. It's not anything that would bring you here. If you're here because you know the reality of the repeat, the risk of the repeat, the fear of the repeat. All right. Or that sense of being stuck and overwhelmed. Start slow and we have to adjust ourselves over time. All right. Two parts. Don't let it build up behind you. Don't put it down, put it away. Okay, do it now. It never gets easier. That's the day-to-day stuff. As well as at the other end of the spectrum, 15 minutes. How many times have you heard me say that? 15 minutes a day, okay? And pick a spot that prioritize what would give you the most payoff, the most reward. Safety first. Safety is always first, because if you don't have safety, you've got nothing. All right? You don't have health safety, you don't have physical safety. So safety first, but 15 minutes a day, when and only when you know You know that you have another 15 minutes of steam in the tank to do that second 15 minutes. Don't start out that. You do 15 minutes, you make a commitment to yourself to do 15 minutes. You use your timer so that you're honest with yourself, right down to the minute. Because it's when you start fuzzying and fudging the edges, all right, it's a slippery slope. Get yourself a timer, set it for 15 minutes. If that seems like a really long time, just sit there and watch the 15 minutes. Just for the first time, sit and watch the 15 minutes expire. You'll realize you'll get a pace. Okay. Now, once you can actually commit to that 15 minutes a day reliably, all right, yourself without prodding, if you have another 15 minutes, one more 15 minutes of steam in the tank, okay. But once you start, all right, once you start that second 15 minutes, you have to complete it. So it's not 17 minutes, it's 15 minutes and an optional 15. Why do I say that? I say it because when you know that when you start that second 15 minutes, you have to finish it, what you're actually learning to do is to think very long and hard about what you commit to. But when you commit to it, you keep your word to yourself. So that'll do one of two things. You'll either find, you know what, that half hour really wasn't that bad. I have that steam in the tank. All right. Or it will teach you, I was just hanging on for that bell to go off on the timer. I will stick to 115 minutes a day and I will do it. But I will keep coming back to the same spot. Don't be flitting around from one thing to another doing 15 minutes. Why do I say that? Because you will not get the reward for it. All right. It's watching that edge of the clutter start to erode and disappear that gives you a kick. And when you're thinking, oh, this is going to go on forever, it's not enough. You can go back and you can look at something tangible. Okay, it may only be that much space that I reclaimed, but it's that much more than I had this morning. And tomorrow it'll be another. And it's also the 15 minutes that I created as a strategy, and then the second 15 minutes and the rules around that. The reason I did that was because it fits really well with the comorbidities that accompany hoarding. Not everybody has every comorbidity, but you know what they are: depression, anxiety, ADD, ADHD, bipolar, um, um, Asperger's, social anxiety. There's a list, all right, um, and nobody is all ADD or ADHD, all depression. Everybody, if you experience that, you have your own percentage of that is a factor you need to factor into the plan that you're going to make. All right. And how much of yourself you're going to commit. All right. So, all right. So that second 15 minutes is learning to keep your word to yourself. All right. When you say it, you do it, or you don't say it. It's a choice, and there's no more value. You're not worth more. You're not more successful if you do that second 15 minutes. It doesn't make you a better anything. It just means that that is something that you recognize you're capable of doing, and you believe it's in your own best interest to do it. Okay, so it's also true that, and this is important to realize, all right, because when you're having to make choices, attachment to what we don't really want. Now you want it, but you don't really want it. So it would make it somewhere in the 6 to 10. The sorting process, 1 through 10, 1, 2, 3, can't imagine life without it. There you are. If something's got to go, it's not going to be you, it's going to be the guy at the other end of the spectrum. All right. And then we go to 7, 8, 9, 10. 7, 8, 9, 10 are those things that you think, I thought I got rid of you already. You're still hanging around? Hmm. Well, if something's got to go, it's going to be you because it's not going to be any of the 1, 2, 3s. I can manage without it. I'd like it, but I can manage without it. If I've got to clear some space here, it's going to be you. And then you really only have 4, 5, 6 to work with. We're not going to go into why you actually only end up with one category, the fives. All right, we'll talk about that in another podcast or read it in the book or listen to it in the audiobook. But when you're making those choices, when you're facing down those decisions, no, it's also true that attachment to what we don't really want, when we hold onto it like some kind of a safety thing, all right, will always leave us feeling empty. You know why? Because it isn't the most important to us. And we are surrounded by things that are not the most important. And they aggravate us and they make us judge ourselves. Right? Holding on to those things, oh, just in case. What would be the worst thing that could happen? Think about it. What would be the worst thing that could happen? It's happened to me. I thought, okay, you've been around too long. I haven't used you in a long time. Can't really see. Probably at some point I'm going to, but I just need you gone. I need that space. I need that whatever. All right. 2 weeks later, I haven't used the thing in 3 years. 2 weeks later, I'm going to need it. Okay. I'm still living, people. I'm still living. All right. It didn't really, it seemed kind of funny actually. Well, after I thought to myself, oh my goodness. Then I realized that's kind of the humor of life. And somebody had it, I borrowed it, I rented it, I did whatever. All right. I lived through it. And I still have the space free. I can use it for something else. Or I can just take a deeper breath because I don't have to think, oh, another job. Oh, another job. Oh, another job. Oh, another job. Okay. Give yourself a break. Those things that are not the most important to us, they aren't a genuine desire. They're just hangers on. They're safety margins. Let's stop right now. Take out your pens and paper. Um, and I want you to write down the biggest things in your life that created that exaggerated need for safety and precision. You had to be right. You be because some people, their punishment isn't that they have to do without it. The punishment they give themselves is they feel stupid. Like, oh, I made the wrong decision. You're going to make millions of those in your life. This is be a really good thing to adjust to. And you're going to survive them too. Guess what? Because you're never alone. It's not the worst thing that can happen. You're going to live through it. Maybe you're going to have to borrow a can opener. All right. because you gave 4 of them away. And the one you kept, it wasn't working. That's one of the little jokes of life, right? Don't judge yourself. Where in your life did you learn to be only worthwhile or your worth increased if you made decisions that panned out every time? And if you didn't, it said something negative about you. Where did you learn that? Write it down. If you're holding on to things just in case, I might use it, I might need it, but you really haven't used those things in, maybe you use them once a year. And it's not a big event, it's just a thing. Where did you learn that? The other question I want you to ask yourself is, what experience in your life or experiences in your life taught you that you might run out of something? And that would be a really bad thing. So that scarcity mindset, you don't have enough, you've got to keep everything. You've got to keep everything. All right. Scarcity. There's never enough. Never enough. You can't have too much safety. You can't have too much. That scarcity mindset. You don't have to have come from an impoverished childhood. You can have grown up in a family where the rules of life dictated that you held on to everything because you need to be self-reliant, right? Heaven forbid you go next door to the neighbor and borrow sugar. Were there any experiences like that? Or did you come to where you live now? Or do you have family stories about, we landed at Pier 21 with 10 cents in our pocket and we scrimped and saved and are there family stories that as a child you listened to and you learned the rules of life? All right. You learned the rules of life. This is what a person does. Yeah. Okay. Now ask yourself, in your life, not their life, not that part of your life when you were vulnerable as a child and your family. Right now, rate your vulnerability for, if I run out, I'm cooked. If I run out, it's all over. The game's up. There is no viable solution. It would be a disaster. Or I would engage in self-recrimination. Stupid, I'm better than that, and you beat yourself up. Okay. Are any of those things present? If they are present in your thinking, can you go down to the reaction thing and put a thumbs up? I just want to get a sense of what's feeding the situation for you in the belief category. Okay. Nobody. Okay. Well, that's good. It's easier anyway. Okay, so let's move on. When we're in that uncertain state of mind, okay, we often experience that uncertainty as a fear. All right. And that fear sometimes is paired with, quite often actually, is paired with, I don't know how to do it well enough, a lack of skill. I do it, but I don't have the right equipment. I lack something. I lack skill. It's been a long time since I did it. So when we're in that uncertain state of mind about, I'm going to take on this challenge, this pile, this job, okay, and that fear or lack of skill is based on inherently knowing that what you're aiming for is not really what you want in your life, right? That fear or lack of skill is quite often based on it's not important enough. It might seem important, but it's not important enough that I'm actually going to get around to it. And perhaps we're feeling a bit lost, all right, or a little bit uncertain and unable about how to change the path, the trajectory that we're on to get us to where, you know, that thing you wrote last week, what is the desire? You're not certain. You lack the skill, you lack the knowledge, and you don't quite know about how you change that path. When we find ourselves struggling with something, we've asked ourselves, do I really? This is what I want you to stop each time that happens and you kind of feel blocked or as though there's something in the way. You can't move forward with that next thing you need to do. Do I really truthfully want to do this? By doing this thing, and it doesn't always have to be about clutter, but by doing this thing, is that really going to be moving me in the direction I want to go? And at the same time, not being certain you really want to buy into that and commit to it. But you're not really telling yourself that. It's just by accident. It never kind of works out. You just never kind of get around to it. You get distracted. I've got these other things. You find problems that you assign as the reason why it's too hard. All right. It's never too hard to do a small chunk of anything. It's never too hard. If it's part of your life, it's never too hard. It's part of your environment. It's part of what you own. Are you holding on to some outdated idea of what our measure of success would be, your measure of success? And if so, what would happen? What would it look like? What would happen if you just decided to let go of it? Okay. Self-sabotage often indicates that we are at some level of not being convinced that we're on the right path. Self-sabotage, what I'm basically saying is in some cases, all right, self-sabotage is like a warning sign. You know what? You're having all this trouble because no, you don't have the skill to do it, but you don't have, and you're not really wanting to learn the skill to do it, and you're not finding the time to do it. You're not getting enough rest and hydration and whatever you need to be physically and mentally available to do it. Maybe it's just really and truly not something that is part of desire. And then you need to go back to that last question. If it's not part of the desire that you've written down, really and truly, because it's just not happening, what is it giving you? Don't be afraid to ask that question. What is it giving you to hold on to that clutter? What is it giving you? Because it's one way, it's one side or the other. What we hold on to that gets in our way serves us, doesn't feel that way. You'd never convince yourself of that in a month of Sundays. But it gives, if we're holding on to it, it gives us something. If we fail to resolve it, all right, and we tell ourselves it's a lack of skill, well, where is the skill to resolve it? Maybe it's not a one-man job. Maybe you need help. Maybe you need coaching to get through it. The coaching isn't going to last forever. Okay. This resolution is not a life story. Why aren't you investing in what you need to resolve the issue and get past it and live past it and be on the path that you want to? All of those things that you want to do, all of those other things you want to use your space for, knowing that people can come to the door at any time, fire department included, and you don't have to worry about it. Why are you not taking that step to find the skill, to find the support? I know you're coming here, but I'm not pitching anything here. I'm just asking you to honestly look at what it is. And it's one of two things. It's either giving you something, a reason to stay stuck in whatever way you feel stuck, or it's that you're using an outdated thinking style, set of rules for life that don't fit with the context of your life right now. And you're not reaching out for the help you need to help yourself get to where you need to get to and get past it. It's one of two things. Which is it? Just know which it is. And what was the first thing that came to your mind? Because that's probably the answer. You know what your answers are in life. You do, that you have them inside you. I don't have them. I don't have answers for you. I don't. My skill is in coaching you and helping you to dig down and find your answers, because your answers are the only ones that are going to work for you. They are the only ones that you can get behind and really put the focus and the commitment and the energy and the passion into reclaiming your life and your space. And it is doable. I wouldn't have done it for 23 and a half years if it wasn't. And you wouldn't be here every week if you didn't know you're capable of it. Okay? All right. So when we aren't convinced that we're on the right path and listening to that internal, not quite certain part of ourselves, all right, that helps us see that we need to rethink what would be better toward what needs to be our next step forward. I'm going to repeat that. All right. When we aren't convinced that we're on the right path, we just have that niggling kind of, okay. And we're listening to that internal, not quite certain part of ourselves. We have a feeling, we know, we kind of know, we just aren't certain. All right. That helps us see, that uncertainty helps us see that what we actually need to do is to rethink. It gives us time, puts up the red flag. Hold on, take a deep breath, think about this. What would be better? What do you need? Where is it? And how do you get enough of it to make enough of a difference? Because the answer to that is a better guarantee of the next step forward. And then being willing to take a very small risk, even if that means that we move into uncertain territory. Of course, it'll be uncertain territory. You haven't been there. You don't have a lot of comfort and ease and familiarity with that state of mind. All right. We don't have to spend the rest of our focus and energy trying to achieve the measure of success that might be holding us back right now because it was somebody else's measure of success. What's your measure of success? When we're too unfocused to understand who we were, all right, our only responsibility to ourselves is to make decisions for who we are today, one step at a time. Because you've become a different person. You grow, you change, you develop, you learn from when this problem started. And you work with where you are now. All right. How do you resolve it? We have to be willing to accept that maybe our success doesn't have to look the way that we thought it might. All right. It's not going, it might not look that way. It might not feel that way. But we know that by moving forward, we're moving toward peace of mind in whatever areas of your life are affected by the reason you come here to this podcast. Okay. And the most important thing to us is that that other thing that we're uncertain about isn't coming as naturally to us as we hoped. When we can accept our own, I'm going to call it wisdom, just kind of truth, all right, of letting go of what isn't right for us, what we're actually doing, truthfully, is we are creating the space to discover what is right for us. You can't be living an outdated thinking pattern that works for today that does, it's like buying the wrong size of shoes and thinking you're going to comfortably be able to walk in them. You can't. When we can accept the wisdom of letting go of what isn't right for us, we create the space to discover what is. All right. Now, know this. All right. We're going to end on this. Letting go requires us to see things for what they really, truly are. All right. And it takes courage. The foremost thing it takes is courage. The courage to be imperfect, the courage to possibly be wrong, the courage to possibly end up on your knees and have to get back up a few times until you figure the exact path and the pace that you can move at on that path. Now, I want you to think about that this week. And next week, we're going to have an open Q&A, and we are going to process this whole podcast. And I want you not to be spectators. I want you to be participants. Okay? I'm the only one with my thumbs up. Come on. It's down in the reaction thing, or just stick your hands up in the air. Okay. All right. I will see you next week with bells on. It Wednesday. Okay. Take care, everyone. Make it a good one.